And people are just, how do you do this?
Oh, wait, damn it.
I spend a lot of time.
Okay, I can hear you now. Perfect.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi,
It's hot in California, huh?
I'm in Atlanta. I'm in Georgia, and yes, it's hot.
Oh my God. If I was thinking you were up north, I totally forgot.
But you know what? The air went out, so it's even like worse.
Yeah. There's no air here. Nobody has AC.
Oh yeah, see, and that's one of the things that I did not like, especially in Oakland, because the houses were older, so the AC was not built in at all.
Yeah, that's how our house is. There's like fans going everywhere.
Can you hear me good, or do I need to put on earphones?
No, I think we can hear you. Yeah, all good. You ready to roll?
Are we recording yet?
Yeah. Oh. But we can always cut out the beginning.
That's fine.
So welcome to the BIRTHFIT podcast.
Lindsay, I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm super stoked to have you too, because basically I want to repeat, 3/4 of the conversation we had 2 weeks ago and let the audience hear what's going on,
Yeah, that sounds wonderful.
So first, let's start with who you are and how your journey into the childbirth world started.
Oh, no, I'm going to date myself.
Let's do it.
I'm going to date myself. So I started out in the year 2000 with DONA. And so I trained as a doula back in 2000 and up in Sacramento. And I had my practice going for about 2 to 3 years into the doula business, into the doula world, and was, getting really great traction, but I always knew I wanted to deliver babies. So about 2 to 3 years into my doula career, I transitioned and studied apprentice and practice midwifery in Oakland, and had my own midwifery practice along with another midwife. And we primarily worked with women of color. While I was delivering, I was doing home births at that particular time. And I took some time off after about a couple of years, about 2 years as a midwife, a home birth midwife. Yeah, about 2 years into it. And went and got a culinary degree. I'm just crazy, but I went and got a culinary degree. But I did that because one of the things that I noticed while I was delivering babies was women were lacking in their nutrition on their in their prenatal period. So I really wanted to be able to bridge everybody's love of food with pregnancy. And so I was able to do that. And fast forwarding some years later, of course, I went back onto the doula side, and I just chose not to practice as a midwife. That's something that's going to always be with me, the education, how I approach birth, or I have taught others to approach birth from a more holistic care, continuity of care, taking care of the whole woman, not just her vagina, when she goes into labor, but the physiology around birth, and then also bridging the gap with nutrition. So as a result, I've been able to cultivate a prenatal nutrition guide that really helps the body prepare for the most efficient labor possible. And, through iron and protein and really breaking things down so moms can actually see the nutritional benefit in relation to labor and how it can help expedite the labor process. So as a result of creating that guide, I've had doctors be like, Tracie, what are you doing with these women? Because their babies are like falling out. And I'm just like, you guys can't even hang on my level, because they would be like, "What? We're not doing anything. Tracie's doing everything." And the nurses would see me come in, and they would be like, "There's something else to her. She's not just like a regular doula." Mm-hmm. So when they found out my background, they were like, "Oh, okay. Now we get it. We see it." But I really have been, have had success in being able to marry holistic approach to birth and the hospital setting, and understanding the policies and procedures, the bureaucracy, the physiology behind birth, and being able to bridge it for the clientele base so they can have the most successful birth possible. My motto has always been healthy mom, healthy baby. I'm not like, you have to go natural. It's like, come on. We don't know what kind of labor her body is going to have. Labor, there's a lot of moment by moment decision making process. So you have to be as fluid as water when it comes to birthing your baby. And so that's one of the things that I, now teach other doulas to teach their clients, and that we, still facilitate within the practices themselves.
That's awesome. I love that phrase, fluid as water.
To be fluid as water.
Yeah.
You can't control
so
it.
Adaptable.
Get out of your mind. You have no control. And I know I'm probably going to like ruffle some feathers by saying this, but I hate plans. I totally hate birth plans. And
That's okay. We do too. We call it a worksheet.
Lindsay, this is why. This is why. But I don't like them because I think it sets moms up for failure. It's like, I'm looking at it from not just the day of, but how is her postpartum period going to be? Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, there's a lot of unrealistic expectations put on women in society, period. And then when you complicate it with just a linear view of how birth is supposed to be, especially if your body has never given birth before. Now, if this is your second baby, at least we have a blueprint, but we don't even have a blueprint, but you can totally impress me with the postpartum plan. Yeah. It's like, you want to do a postpartum plan? Now you're talking, but don't bring up. I hate them.
So what was I still get this question a lot, and I'll back up a sec because we could go off on 1,000 tangents. But with doula and midwifery, still to this day, and we're in 2018, people are like, what's a doula? Mm-hmm. So, let's just say we have somebody new that's listening on the podcast and they're like, wait a sec, what's the difference between a midwife and a doula? And was there any certain thing that, was there any certain thing that made you choose the doula lifestyle over the midwife lifestyle?
Liability.
Yeah.
And I got that question today. And the best way is to, the midwife does everything medical. The doula's role is non-medical. As long as you are operating within the scope of what a doula means, it is non-medical. So it is emotional, mental, and physical support. When you begin to take heart tones or blood pressure or read urine sticks or begin to diagnose, that's out of the scope of practice. I've had clients, because they know my background, they're like, well, will you do? Nope, that's a whole nother mindset for me. That's a whole nother pay grade. You don't want to do that with me. Yeah.
So and then how would you explain midwifery versus OB-GYN to somebody?
First of all, midwife, I don't know if I can cuss. I'm gonna be good.
Yeah, you can. I do all the time.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Midwives are the shit. Midwives are the shit. The reason is because we're taught to be led by our intuition, and our skill set has to be so keen because we don't have access to those emergency, technology, all that stuff, the OR, and being a midwife, you're trained in preventative. You're not trained in reactionary. So, and that's the difference. Of course, OBGYNs do surgery and all of that, but the midwifery care is so involved in the whole woman, how, past trauma can affect the course of her delivery, can affect the course of her labor or pregnancy. How is her health before she got pregnant? What's the plan afterwards? When, and just to give you a brief example, when you deliver with a midwife, when you do a home birth, it's like we used to do 24-hour visits postpartum, 72-hour visits postpartum, 5-day or 1 week, a 2-week visit, a 4-week visit, and a 6-week visit postpartum.
Yeah, that is unreal.
Yeah. That
compared to like the Western medicine approach.
Right. See you in 6 weeks. Okay, that's it. You're done. And then the woman is like, but.
Yeah, their head is spinning.
Yeah. Their head is spinning. Their body is confused, trying to adjust to their new normal. They're still healing. It's, you know, we know, you and I both know, postpartum, it takes about a year. And I'm so over, especially with, you know, Serena Williams, and now Beyonce has said her whole thing about what she's dealt with. And just based on Cardi B's post alone, I'm convinced that she has postpartum depression, and nobody or in her circle knows how to get to her and say, this is what you need. And so I don't like the whole mentality, like, snap back and get back to work. And it's like, why
get your pre-baby body back, or like, that's the worst.
It really, and there is no such thing. Even if you may
you've evolved.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Totally different. So really looking at the fourth trimester, which is the postpartum period, for, you know, as a 12-month thing, you know, as a 12-month thing versus a 6-week.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's not 6 weeks. Okay. Go exercise, have sex, get back to your life. It's like, what?
None of that. None of that. And even if you do, you're so out of your body. It's that whole thing takes a process. You know, how do we getting back into our body, you know, adjusting to being a mom, producing milk, I'm sleep deprived, taking a shower is a luxury. Can I eat? Well, you know, all of the basics that, you know, you take for granted until you become a parent.
Yeah. Using the bathroom alone, it's huge.
How about that? How about that first? Like, oh my God, please don't let it sting when I pee. Oh my God, I poop. Like the basic stuff.
So let's jump back to nutrition, because you said you got a culinary degree and, you know, incorporated that into what you were doing as a doula. What were, you know, if you could say top 3 things that would support a woman in her pregnancy, or that you would incorporate if you want to share?
Get out of the myth that protein comes from animals. You can get some, but there are more healthier ways to incorporate protein into the body. Understanding that, how to support the immune system. So, and how the protein and the immune system go together when it comes to healing and connective tissues, when it comes in, it also comes to tearing and helping to minimize tearing. Let me see what else. Hydration.
Hydration is key.
Hydration, and how dehydration mimics early labor. So oftentimes when you have clients who it's the summertime, it's hot, and she's in her 3rd trimester and she's experiencing uterine contractions, and she contacts you, it's like the first thing you always want to ask is, are you hydrated? Oftentimes, you know, like when she thinks about it, it's like, oh no. And then you hydrate and you feel so, because if you even go to the ER, the first thing they're going to do is give you fluids.
Right. They're going to put an IV in and start that.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And then also how to incorporate dark leafy greens, but how your postpartum diet has to change. It can't be necessarily the same. You can't combine all of those dark leafy greens in the postpartum period. Your baby's digestive system is very new. They're trying to get adjusted. Imagine if you eat a whole bunch of kale and collard and chard, like 4 hours later, you're going to be on the toilet. Your body is going to be cleaning itself out. Imagine what your newborn digestive system is going through too. So it's really important to learn how to isolate your foods.
Those are good tips. Any other tips postpartum wise, like for that immediate 2 to 6 week time?
Eat. Eating at least 8 meals a day. Your only job is really to eat and sleep and feed your baby. That's it. You are not the nurturer. You are to be nurtured. Also, for the partner in the situation, you are to be nurtured as well. It's really important to come up with a postpartum plan, how your family can support you, how your friends can support you. If you are going to have a postpartum doula, like all of those things are key. But for immediate postpartum, you want to eat and stay hydrated. And I mean, eat around the clock. 24/7, because moms, their body is producing milk, and oftentimes like they feel like, oh my God, my baby's screaming, they're not getting enough milk. Are you eating enough? We have to go back to the basics because mom isn't thinking like this. Are you eating enough? What are you eating? We want your milk nice and thick, even though we know breast milk is watery. There's a consistency that we're looking for that's going to fill baby up. So it's really important that you have good, healthy, snacky foods near you, and then also healing foods.
What's your favorite healing food? You personally?
Me?
Yeah.
I haven't been pregnant in 15 years. Like just in general, or just
yeah.
Oh, my go-to food is salad. Like if people
Really?
make I can eat salad like winter, spring, summer, fall. I love salad. Yeah. I love produce, like a beautiful array of colors, and like I get excited when I go to the produce. For me, it's I love dark leafy greens, and even like being a Black girl, we have the greens, the pot of greens, and you can make greens so many different ways. You don't have to just soak them in and cook them for hours. You can saute them in coconut oil.
That's what I do.
Isn't it so good?
Yeah.
You can saute them in coconut oil. Collard greens sauteed in coconut oil, or kale sauteed in coconut oil is amazing. And you just put some nutritional yeast on there, some red pepper flakes, and a little bit of Bragg's, and you're good to go. So look, I just gave a recipe.
You can invoice everybody for that one.
I just gave a recipe. But those are my healing foods. I would definitely say that. Or a pot of black-eyed peas. Like,
ooh,
good warm stuff that really like warms your soul.
Yeah.
One pot meals.
Yeah, I like that. All right, so back to your life story. So how the heck did you go from Oakland to Atlanta? And when was that?
So it's been a transition, but primarily in the course of a year. But I have been going back and forth to Atlanta for a while, and it's just home.
Yeah.
It's just like when a place resonates in your spirit. It just was that for me. But, I grew up in Oakland. My practice is still going well and strong in Oakland. And Caitlin, my doula partner, facilitates that primarily. And now I just launched an Atlanta doula group here. And it's just, we're doing it. We're trying to make a difference.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So let's take a time out and we'll stop talking about your life journey, but talk about what the heck is going on in America today. Like, your face just changed everything. So for those of us that have been following BIRTHFIT, they know, if you follow BIRTHFIT on Instagram, we share some facts. Hopefully I can do a better job about sharing facts, but we try to, whether it be through breastfeeding or maternal mortality rate, share some information just so people wake up and see what the hell is going on. Because women of color, specifically Black women, are dying at a rate of 3 to 4 times white women, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So tell everyone what the heck is going on. And then maybe we can dive into like, how the heck can we do anything about it from where each one of us are in our, in Venice, California, or Davenport, Iowa, or Oklahoma City.
Yeah. So first, it's a couple of things. It's a few things. It's several things. It really dates back to the father of gynecology and how he taught doctors. Let me go back even further. So we all know the granny midwives. Okay. Mm-hmm. We know that Black granny midwives in the South, they were delivering these babies. And midwives, and we go back even further than that, women were always healers in villages, and the midwife was always the one doing the work with the family, for the family. She was the herbalist. She was the midwife. She was there at the beginning of life and end of life transition. So that's just the little bit of
that's
history.
Powerful though. Like, just to sit and think about that, like the women were the spiritual healers.
Yeah.
And that got passed on to generations.
passed on to generations, and it's not only like spiritual healers, physical healers, you know. And this is why, like, I mean, I'm digressing just a second, but transition and labor is so important because moms are at that window of life. Moms and babies are a transitional period, and if you don't know how to handle a woman in labor in that transitional period with no medication, you are going to do her a disservice. So
that's so true. Yes.
yeah, they're at that window. It's a cross between two worlds, and it's a real fine line. It's an extremely fine line. But so there's that history of women healers, and then you have the granny midwives. But then you have, let's introduce Western medicine and white male supremacy. And so they come and they've gotten all this information and this knowledge, but now they've ousted all of these granny midwives that have done all of the healing. I can go further and further and further into that. But then in doing that, what has happened is the father of gynecology, he taught that Black women did not feel pain.
Yeah.
And there were experiments done on Black women that were done without any anesthesia. So this is, in recent relative history, and as a result, this mentality has been passed down in the medical system and society. And
it's like taught in schools.
It's taught in schools, but also understand that, Black women don't feel pain. They're taught not to listen to us. They're not trained in preventative measures. We're trained in when you're coming from a holistic background, you're trained in a holistic approach as far as how to deal with the body to prevent X, Y, and Z. They're trained in how to intervene or how to look for problems or how to create problems or how to create a domino effect. So there's a lot of that, in that history. But moving forward, what's happening is not only is it systemic because of the medical system and what's been taught, now we have the nurses and doctors in the OBGYN field. They're not listening to Black women. They're telling Black women, this is not what's happening to you. Yes, we hear you, but you're not in pain. We have somebody else that needs addressing. So there's a prejudice over there too. There's we're turning a blind eye. We're being ignorant. What you're saying is not valid. And we can go into other areas in society where they'll say Black women and what we're saying is not valid. But we're just talking specifically about our bodies right now. And you have lived in your body for your entire life, and you know what's normal and not normal. And you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but if you say it and I say it, the reception will probably be different. So when you add that into that culture and what's happening in the medical society, okay, and it doesn't matter your socioeconomic background, it doesn't matter your education level, it does not matter. This is why we have to change the mentality of what is happening and what is being listened to. This is why Black women are dying. This is why people are making decisions on our behalf that don't have our best interests at heart, and it's costing us our life. So not only is the Black family structure being doubled, the mothers are being are losing our lives because of childbirth or immediate postpartum, and the father, we all know what's happening with that. So it's just a whole attack on the Black family structure, and it's hard to heal from that. Now when you complicate it with nutrition and the lack of healthy resources and options in the neighborhoods, that becomes another factor. Then when you keep information from people, and we all know like information and knowledge is power. So when you keep that information as far as this plant will help you do X, Y, and Z, or if you hydrate this much, you will change. Or if you move 30 minutes a day, just imagine how much easier your labor would be. All of these things. And so we're seeing things on a lot of different levels. But now that we have people who are helping to say, hey, this is me and this is what's happening to me, we are trying to be as vocal about it as possible and to help end the Black maternal mortality rate. because we don't have to die. There's no reason. Like, you go in the hospital, I go in the hospital, have a baby at the same time. We should still be able to come out and go home and both have a healthy
Right,
postpartum.
right. Well, and taking a step back, it's like from the research that I've done, in which, I came up with all of that, like the granny midwives, them experimenting on Black women with no painkillers, like
Right.
that's so inhumane. And then I forget, what's the father of
Yeah,
obstetrics?
obstetrics and gynecology. I was trying to look it up, but
I forget his name, but it's like all those textbooks,
yeah,
they were written without a woman's point of view at all, but much less any woman of color. So it's
yeah.
like white males wrote obstetrics textbooks.
Hmm. But remember, now we go back that they went to learn it, the practice
Yeah,
from us. Yeah,
which is unreal. And then it's plagiarism or like taking intellectual property, and like for sure they
yeah.
in today's day and age, but holy hell. So how do we change, like, I know the schools, like that's a mess. Like, how, like, I don't know how you do that. How do we change the schools? Like, can we get in there and say, we've got to rewrite these textbooks?
You know what helps is having allies, is having, people who have resources or people who are in certain professions who
Mm,
literally listen to what we have to say. We have facts to back us up. There is Black Mamas Matter
mm.
alliance, and they are, I think, am I saying the name right? But they're amazing, and they're headquartered in Atlanta, and they're doing amazing work to help change how, like politically, what's happening with Black women and the maternal mortality rate. So they're doing an amazing job. So I just think we need to start with awareness and acknowledgement. And then also, like, I think white women need to acknowledge and have the conversation with us. Like, don't be afraid of our voices or our experiences. It's okay for us to be different.
Mhm.
The best thing that we can do is, like, let's help bridge this gap, because you guys have resources or access to things that we don't necessarily have. But when we create a bridge, which is, that creates the education, it creates opportunity to ask questions, even hard questions, and so we can begin to make the difference and change.
For sure. I like that. Is there any way you can elaborate on bridging that gap? Like, let's say, and I'm trying to think of a scenario, but let's go to like Oklahoma City or middle, like Nebraska or somewhere, where they may have, like, some of our regional directors in these areas or professionals have maybe one OB-GYN that they love that will support, maybe a VBAC or a breech birth, or, in some states like Alabama don't even have midwives, right? Or home births. Like, one of them is not an option. Yeah. Like, if you could ask white women to step up, what would be like the top 2 or 3 things you would ask them to do? Hmm. To bridge the gap.
First of all, I think you should listen. I think
Mm,
we can't. You have to listen without the intent to make a comment. Just listen from your heart. And after you listen, you need to also talk to your peers. Talk to your circle. I think
mm,
that's really important, because you not sharing information is meant to be shared, especially if it's going to help better somebody's experience on this earth. Um, and then from there, we can take it into the professions.
mm.
It starts with having an open, safe space for information to be shared, and then having that table talk with your good girlfriends, like having that table talk or that pillow talk with your spouse, because we all know, like, we can't compete with pillow talk. There's nothing that can compete with pillow talk, but
No.
if your spouse just so happens to be an OBGYN, guess what difference that makes? So I think we need to shed light on organizations that are doing the work, Black women who are out here in the birth world doing the work, trying to get in and save us,
Yeah.
trying to get in and save ourselves, and what resources are available to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even think I give that question a good enough answer.
No, I think it's great. You got to keep the conversation going. Like many people have stepped up and, thank God for Serena Williams and Beyonce and their following, because they've brought the conversation to light even more. But it's like, we can't, the information's there, it's out there. We can't put it under the rug, that would just be turning ahead. And, if you turn ahead, then you're on the other side, basically.
And another thing too is for white women to stop asking for Black women to be there for their causes and not showing up for ours. If Black women have always been on the forefront of political change. Now it's like I'm at a point where stop showing up for other people. Like Black women, you've got to stop it, because you need to show up for yourself first. If you're not healthy, what do they say when you're flying? And the safety measures, you have to put your own oxygen mask on first before you can help somebody else. Mm-hmm. We need to put our own oxygen mask on first, then we can help someone else. And so there are a lot of people who are able to benefit off of the knowledge of that Black women have had or have shared, or it may have been taken or, willfully given. But now that those tables need to turn, and we need those numbers, and we need allies to show up for us. And I'm not going to be apologetic in saying so. It's like, this just is what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. Show up for what you believe in.
Right. Yeah. But in the midst of all of that, Lindsay, it's going to save lives. It's going to save lives. We're not going to have Black women hemorrhaging because nobody's listening.
Oh my. Yeah.
That face.
That's for me. It's like, so when you read about it and you're like, how is this happening when we spend $98 billion a year in the, birth world, and then just on a, I guess, nation viewpoint or nation view is that we are terrible with maternal mortality rate, but even worse with Black women, and it's like, okay, somebody take a step back and let's review the whole process, because it sucks.
Yeah, it sucks, and it's costly.
Yeah.
And then another thing that really needs to be looked at is insurance.
I was just about to say that. What's your opinion on the insurance game in our country?
It's a scam. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
Insurance need to cover. They need to cover doulas. They have to cover doulas, because we save, not only do we save money, but we also help save lives. Mm-hmm. And I had one of the members of the National Black Doulas Association recently identify a postpartum preeclamptic mom, and the hospital released her, and then shortly thereafter she's swollen. I think within the 72-hour period she's swollen her, and she's having all of these preeclamptic or these signs. And they went back, and of course it was postpartum preeclampsia. But had the doula in the situation not identified it, we would have had a mom go into eclampsia postpartum. So it's and as a doula, you have to understand, even though your knowledge is, or your work, your scope is within not physical, or it's not medical, you have to be aware to identify certain signs that best support the mom and what's going on with her body.
Right. And the doula, whether they're doing a midwifery birth or with an OB-GYN, they've probably know this mom and that couple, or whoever, on a deeper emotional level than, let's say, at the hospital. And so they can tell when something's off.
Exactly. And I tell people this. I say, your doula is going to be there with you throughout. She's the one consistent factor, or her team, or in that practice or in that group, they're the one consistent factor. But the nurses and the doctors, depending upon the shift, are just meeting you for the very first time, and they're changing shifts too. Yeah. So They're not going to, when they're passing your information on as far as doing review before they come in and introduce themselves to you, they're reviewing your chart. But what's happening and how things are progressing, they're not talking about what happened at home because they're not privy to that information.
That's so true. So how do we get insurance to cover preventative care?
Oh my God, I have no idea. It's legislative. I think it's organizations definitely like the Black Mamas Alliance who are doing the work on the political level. Yeah.
And that's where funding and money comes into play, is because like whoever has the most money gets heard in DC.
Yeah, it basically. And you know, our resources are tapped. We don't have the resources available to us that our counterparts necessarily would.
Right.
So it's loaded. It's just so much stuff.
Yeah, it's so much stuff. And the more, like, I have to, whenever I read stuff, like open a new book about, you know, any, like The Big Letdown is what I'm reading right now. But like those type of books, like they just get me really pissed off. And so I have to like be in an okay mindset, you know, not read it before I go to bed or first thing in the morning, because then it just, I'm like pissed the rest of the day.
Right.
So I couldn't even freaking imagine like being Serena Williams and being like, hey, this is my body. I know, you know.
And she is the supreme athlete.
And she knows her body. Yeah.
Right. Like, isn't she like the top athlete or ranked the top athlete at one point?
Yeah.
Recent history. So she knows her body, and for it to be ignored, like to read the postpartum birth story is, I read it and was like, oh my gosh, she literally could have died.
Let's take a breath. Okay, so what is National Black Doulas?
So in October of last year, so let me go back just a little bit. Being from Oakland, and I've had my, a successful practice in Oakland for almost 20 years. I'm an OG in this field now.
Wait, say that again. 20 years.
Almost 20 years.
Yeah.
And I've been very fortunate when it comes to working with families. However, I was like, where are all the other Black doulas? It's like, what's going on? I'm like out here, solo Black girl. Like, what's going on? Doing 60 births a year, like 5 births a month, like, being very active in Oakland when it comes to my practice. But by myself, like my counterparts were, one of my mentors my main mentor, she's Latin, but there were no other Black girls that I knew of. So last year, I had an epiphany. I was like, I want to create a resource or a directory where Black doulas can be found nationally, and hence the National Black Doulas Association. And I'm very pleased to say that we have doulas now, Hawaii, California, Texas, DMV, the Southeast region. We have some in the Midwest. I had somebody reach out from Johannesburg, literally saying, how do I be a part of this organization? So we have folks in Spain who are, chiming in, and Canada is like knocking at the door. Like, how do we be a part? How do we be a part of the National Black Doulas Association? So we're getting ready to become the international.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got to change that now.
Association. But I created it literally first as a directory, and as the result of, putting more life into it and seeing the reception that it is getting, I want to create business resources so Black women can learn how to have a successful practice, run a business, how to really, because when you go through a doula training, they train you, and then it's okay, there you go, figure it out.
Yeah,
you're on your
good luck.
Good luck.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what kind of shit is that? Like, okay. And then you just, you figure it out. And then there's a lot of burnout in this field because people get tired of just trying to figure it out. So I started working with doulas one-on-one and offering doula business coaching to help them at all stages of their career, from the onset to 10 years into their career or more, to help them cultivate their business structure and practice. You have something that I don't have. I have something that you don't have. So I'm pulling out that unique quality to where you can carve out your niche, to be able to service people that you want to. And I get into, all kinds of things for business development, but I provide a ton of resources for them to be able to take advantage of.
That's awesome. So if somebody's listening right now and they're like, I need to check this out, what kind of prereqs do they need to apply? And can anybody like go to your website and apply any time of year, or do you have it open a certain time?
So they can, first of all, National Black Doulas Association just kind of like says what it is.
Yeah.
So sure that, you are a person of color. And the reason my phone just keeps ringing, of course, no one calls me. And then all of a sudden, like now that I'm busy,
Yeah.
my attention. But in order to be a member of the National Black Doulas Association, you have to be a Black holistic practitioner. I open it up to holistic practitioners because it's about healing our community from the inside out. Okay?
I like that. Yeah.
Out. We have to be able to take care of us. So it's primarily comprised of doulas, but we have Black doula trainers in there, and you can go online as a Black doula or a Black holistic practitioner if you are a chiropractor, a Reiki massage therapist, acupuncturist, midwife, nutritionist, naturopathic doctor. To you go in and you apply on Black Doulas. Sorry, that's my dog. Blackdoulas.org. And blackdoulas.org. You go in and there's a member application. It's just a monthly fee to be listed in our directory. But then I take it a step further. And what I do is I highlight every new member because I want to bring recognizability to the work that they're doing in their geographic region.
I love that. Yeah. I've been, and I know some of the other BIRTHFIT crew has been following. They're like, oh, they're in my area. Let me connect, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Like and Laura, in Atlanta, and me and Jenny keep missing each other in San Francisco. But we'll make it work. Getting and being able to be an immediate resource, because what you guys offer at BIRTHFIT, we don't necessarily do, right. But we can have like this rotating door, and guess what we're producing? We're producing healthy women. We can get in, we can help bridge gaps, that knowledge that we were just talking about, sharing that information so they know, and we can get in and be advantageous on so many different levels.
Yeah, it's about women supporting women. Like that's when we all win.
Yeah, exactly. We all win. Yeah.
So do you have big goals for the future for National Black Doulas or International Black Doulas, or for the Atlanta doula group, or even your Oakland doula group? Anything on the forefront for the future?
Just really to do the work. Let's just start with the association. I really want Black women to win. We've been losing in so much. It's like, it's enough. It's enough of loss. It's like, come on. And I always say that you cannot be for women empowerment if you are not about them empowering themselves financially. They have to be able to eat, provide for their families, and, just like anybody else.
Yeah.
So really highlighting these Black women out here doing this work, forming partnerships, like with BIRTHFIT in different regions, to where it's like they can go in and they can be like, oh my God, they have a doula in our area. Here's a doula. Guess what that does? Not only does that mom, get that support that she needs, but that Black doula is able to provide the resources that she's been trained in, and then also be able to support her family. It's a win-win situation. And I that is what I see that doing, just making sure these businesses, or these women-owned businesses, are getting the recognition that they deserve. Yeah.
You mentioned providing for their families, and I noticed this in the doula world, that it's really hard for doulas And I noticed this specifically in my training when people were like, so how much do we charge? And you're like,
Lindsay, you're really similar, aren't you? You're pulling out some stuff today.
but it's like charge for your worth, like that. Like how do you get that across to women of all colors? Like,
let me say this.
Yeah.
Your first, there's a lot of pushback from women charging.
Yeah.
Women judge other women for charging their worth. And people make provisions for what it is they want. For me, I believe like when a doula lowballs herself, it's really important that you know what your geographic region is going for, like the services in your geographic region. I'm just going to use Oakland for an example. And you can easily pay $2,500 for a doula in Oakland. And, it can go between $1,500 to $2,500. Price yourself competitively. But when you're coming out of the gate in your training, and people think like, oh, I'm going to just charge lower so I can get the experience, but you've already invested in your training. At the end of the day, this is a business. And this is what I teach the doulas in the association. You have to approach it from a business standpoint. I mean, I know we want to get out there and we want to save the world, but you can't save the world if you're not able to eat. Okay,
right.
So let's look at it from a practical standpoint. You charge what it is. You price yourself competitively for your area. My price point for my Oakland practice is $1,300 to $2,200. We are priced, within the range for that geographic region. And so is the Atlanta practice for the geographic region. But when I hear those women who say, why are you charging, or why are you charging so much? It's like, what happens is it's about proper energy exchange. It's about putting a value on the service. This person is going to be on call for you when you go into labor. Not only that, but you're already tapping into her knowledge base and into her resources before you go into labor. So she's providing you with all these services pre-labor, in the prenatal period and the gestating period. And then it depends on if you move over into the postpartum period, like what does that look like? So I am a firm believer that no doula should charge less than $1,000, and don't even blink. And that's coming out of the gate. Like if I'm going to come to your birth, and if you really want Tracie to show up, it's like, you can't even afford me at this point. But even beyond that, birth is such an energetic field. And the birth room is there's a lot of energy exchanged in there. A woman in labor is the most powerful thing to witness. And when you are on call for clients year round, this person, she neglects her family. She leaves her children. She may have to pay for a sitter or a nanny. She's missing out on holidays and birthdays. And I think that's the piece that people are missing. So when we have doulas who are not charging fairly, you are not doing, you're doing a disservice to the overall profession. And you are definitely doing a disservice to the women who've been in it for years on end. And that's one of the major reasons why there's doula burnout, because they feel like they cannot live on this. People don't want to pay because they're competing up against people who will rather pay for less knowledge than they more for experience.
Right. I love that you said it's an energy exchange. Like money is an energy exchange. That birth is energy. Yeah.
And for that doula to not have resentment brought into that birthing environment, your birthing space is so sacred. Like I tell people, like, it is an honor to be invited into that space as a professional or even as a person, just someone that you know. So when they invite you in, pay that woman her worth and what she's asking, and stop asking for a discount. Like, don't do that. Don't do that. Yeah.
I love that. I totally forgot what we were talking about before, but I had to butt in and say, why don't women charge what they're worth? Like
that is, and I've gotten a little bit of pushback because I recently did a write-up on like getting rid of the free consultations. Like people coming in understand the value. The doula business, like they understand the value of a midwife or a doctor, but they don't understand the value of a doula till they get in the labor stuff. So it takes a lot of convincing. But if you
Right.
have to pay for her time at the onset, then guess what? You understand, number one, that this is a business and you are carving out time of her day to get this information. Like, the parents need to be responsible for doing their own research. I require that people look over my website, review my Yelp page, like, you understand who you are speaking to before you even get a chance to speak to me, you know, and so I'm the professional and I lead the consultation and I tell you what is in it and the value that you will receive. And then you have to figure out, or we have to figure out if it's a good fit for us. And it's okay not to be a fit, but they understand the onset, because guess what happens? They'll respect those boundaries and the parameters that you set, and having a, you know, an airtight contract, because contracts, you know, they're a forever work in progress, because there's always going to be a situation and circumstance that will change that. But, you know, my contract has been tested, and they'll refer back and be like, damn, she said it.
She's good.
She said it. Like, we signed it. Like,
Yeah.
you can be great at your work and still approach it from a business perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And women, when the doulas get on board and understand that, then it'll be easy.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you. Oh, I love this. I could pick your brain forever, but I won't. I love this conversation. So before we get going, what do you do for self-care? Because you have all these businesses.
You're in my head.
How do you stay sane?
I don't know. That's the part that I suck at. I'm so great at preaching it. I so suck. I love dreaming about vacations. I just need to put my butt on a plane and do
it.
Self-care.
Is there anything you do like once a day, once a week, once a month? You're like, oh, I have to do this.
No. And that actually keeps coming up for me. Like, it's literally like being in the cars. Like, you need to play more. So that is something that I'm working on. That's my self-growth, is like, how do I, because I'm so passionate about women and I can't help it. It just doesn't go away, even when I try to decide. So I'm trying to get better.
And you can tell you love the work you do, which, you know, you could do that 24/7.
I know, that's the problem. Doing it 24/7.
Laura Madison, if you're listening, you got to hold Tracie accountable.
That's the problem. That's the problem. But I try to now, like, lessen my load. I try to do it a little bit differently. I try to make sure that I'm putting other doulas under my wing so they can, you know, service the clients. And I really look at myself as like being the doula's doula for business now. I'm kind of like transition. I believe that, you know, I just need to teach. So I wanted to be able to work from anywhere. I've now created that, but I still find myself working too much. How about this? When I go somewhere, I'll post a picture and I'll tag you in it and you'll know.
Yeah, please do. So before we get off, top 3 pieces of advice that you would give a mom during the motherhood transition. And some people, they like to just focus on pregnancy or preconception or postpartum, but I say the motherhood transition in case you want to cover all of it.
Give yourself a lot of permission. I say that to everybody. I do. I say that to clients. You have to give yourself a lot of permission. I told my oldest, who is 25 now, I told her, I said, you're the first one, so I'm going to mess up on you the most. So she knew not to have high expectations. There's no such thing as perfection. You're human. You're learning how. Now with my youngest, who's 14, it's like I'm so seasoned at being a mom. I say, are you bleeding? Or are you breathing? If you answer both of those questions, leave me alone. So you have to give yourself a lot of permission, and failure. There's no such thing as failure. It's like, okay, yeah, I messed up or I made a mistake, but like, what could I do differently? Don't be afraid. Number 2, to ask for help. You cannot. In this society, unfortunately, we've created this whole independent woman thing. That's a bunch of bullshit. It's like, no, just
Yeah, we need connection.
We need human connection.
Yeah.
We need other women. We need our girlfriends. We need our significant others. We need community. We need safe spaces to just be. So once again, it's like, give yourself a lot of permission. Don't be afraid to ask for help. And the final thing is, women, we're the fucking bomb. Remember that. If nothing else, you are getting ready, or you have just passed a human being through your body.
Yeah.
Just like sit back and be like, I'm the shit.
That's so good. Yeah. Where can people find you at?
So, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say social media stuff.
Yeah, social media stuff. So then there's on IG, there is the National Black Doulas Association. You can go there. And then we're on Facebook as well. And blackdoulas.org for that. And you also can find me on tracieenis.com for my Oakland practice. And for my Atlanta practice is atlantadoulagroup.com.
Awesome. Thanks so much for hanging out with me.
You're like that beautiful smile. So you make it feel just so warm.
Oh, well, thank you. I've loved this episode, and I can't wait to chat with you more and see what the future brings for us.
I know. I'm just so excited just with BIRTHFIT and how we are just like, okay, let's make
connection.
Let's figure it out. Let's make this work.
Yeah.
Let's get in here and support.
Yeah. No, this has been good. And thank you so much for doing this. Yeah.
Oh, you're well. Oh, another thing I wanted to make sure that I highlight is that one of our doulas has a postpartum center in San Diego, the very first in California. You see what I'm saying?
Whoa.
One of the doulas in the organization, and it's, okay, so she said it's ONSE, postpartum center. And from women who've just had babies can go there and they can get extended postpartum care and support, from a chef to breastfeeding support 24/7. So I'm not looking at the list that she sent over to me, but I wanted to make sure that I highlighted that because number one, first in California, and we talk so much about postpartum wellness and support. This is a good way to like get the information out about this resource. And she's in San Diego, and her name is Lindsay Hines. So Lindsay, if you're listening, I wanted to make sure that, but we can get, I would like to align BIRTHFIT San Diego if there is
there's two down there. Yeah.
See?
So we'll connect them. Yeah, for sure.
I'd love to do that. So all right, Lindsay.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Stay cool.
Thank you so much. Right. Thank you so much.
Bye, Tracie.